DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show. Our guest is Dr. Dan Loy here from Iowa State University's Department of Animal Science. We're going to talk about nutrition, and we're going to talk specifically about protein and crude protein. It's going to be a great show. We're glad you joined us. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Profusion Drench for beef cattle, a no prescription, no needle supplement. To learn more, go to zenpro.com. ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need, from prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Dan Loy. And Dr. Loy is a university professor here at Iowa State University. He's the director of the Iowa Beef Center, and he has been a ruminant nutritionist that has contributed so much to growth, physiology, nutrition, extension, someone that gets on the ground and works with producers, and we're glad to have you.
Happy to be here.
Now, we're going to take a little trip back into ruminant nutrition.
Okay.
And I always think it's kind of fun to take the deeper dive and have a better understanding, but we're going to talk about, because everybody talks about crude protein. They talk about protein, crude protein, and I don't think everybody understands all the intricacies that go into that.
Yeah, there's crude protein, and then there's the protein that's found in nature. They're similar, but not necessarily the same. Crude protein, by definition, is what you get back from an analysis if you send a sample in to measure protein to a feed analysis lab. And crude protein is really just nitrogen times 6.25. And that's because in nature, natural proteins are 16% nitrogen. So basically, when we do a crude protein test, all we're measuring is nitrogen. Now, in terms of nutrition, what you and I require, and pigs and poultry and all monogastric animals, are amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, but we require several different amino acids specifically for our daily dietary requirement. And if any one of those is low, we're not meeting our protein requirement.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's why beef is such a good source of protein, because the amino acid balance in beef products is closer to what the requirement is than, say, plant proteins.
Gotcha. But we have the ability to, in the ruminant animal, because we feed the bugs first, right?
That's exactly right. You know, we talk a lot about upcycling. And with protein is one of the best examples of upcycling, because with the ruminant animal, rather than requiring those individual amino acids, they have the ability to take sources of nitrogen. That's why we measure nitrogen to get crude protein, different sources of nitrogen, and they can manufacture protein from in the rumen, which is basically a big microbial vat.
Yeah, and those microbes are actually the protein a lot of the protein that those cows digest.
Exactly, that's right. So we can take proteins that are undigestible to humans, sources of nitrogen that are undigestible for humans, like low quality forages, sources of protein that are borderline toxic to humans, like urea,
Yep.
and feed those to ruminants, and basically those microbes, those bacteria in the rumen will manufacture protein, and then the animal actually digests the microbes as a source of protein, which are a better amino acid balance than the original protein.
Yeah, it's no different than when you see some of these culture vats.
Exactly.
That are fermenting and developing byproducts from fermentation, or developing using the protein from those exactly.
Exactly, yes.
And so if you're driving by that ethanol plant, that's just one big
fermentation vat.
One big rumen.
Yeah.
That we're just making ethanol instead of beef.
That's right.
Which both go great together.
Both go great together, and we may talk about that a little more.
That's right. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's a great start to our talk on protein and crude protein with Dr. Dan Loy. We're here at Iowa State University. Stay tuned. If you missed Caregiver Camp this year, don't worry. We'll have more camps in 2022 at Knopfsinger Ranch in Benkelman, Nebraska. The camp is an opportunity for new and veteran employees to receive one-on-one instruction in a relaxed environment from Dr. Tom Knopfsinger, Dr. Kip Lucasavage, and Ted Howard on cattle handling, horsemanship, animal health, disease detection, and team interaction. At Caregiver Camp, people learn how to grow, how to trust, and open lines of contact between animals and humans. These principles will allow you to build relationships with your own livestock and team. For more information and future dates, visit our events page at packdvms.com.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Producers know stress costs money. It puts their cattle at greater risk of illness and can be a substantial drain on animal performance. That's why ZenPro developed ProFusion Drench for beef cattle. Formulated with ZenPro's patented trace mineral technology, ProFusion Drench is a no-script, no-needle performance supplement, proven to rapidly replenish essential nutrients lost during times of stress. For optimal results, use ProFusion Drench with ZenPro Performance Minerals in feed as part of a complete nutrition program. To learn more, go to zenpro.com. ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need. From prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dan Loy, and we're here at Iowa State University in the Department of Animal Science, where Dr. Loy is a university professor. He's the director of the Iowa Beef Center, and he is also the leader for our beef extension program here in the state of Iowa, and has done a wonderful job of selfless leadership to servant leadership to really bring together a group of people to serve the producers within the state, and we appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's talk then a little bit about the differences in some of the sources of crude protein.
Sure. So when we talked about the rumen being able to manufacture protein, to do that, they require a source of nitrogen, but they also require some energy. And the sources of nitrogen, or the protein in feeds, are quite variable. You know, a lot of natural protein sources, let's take for example soybean meal. Soybean meal, when it is consumed, about 25% of that soybean meal is bypassed. In other words, the bacteria really don't touch that protein. So it doesn't get degraded. It bypasses the rumen and is absorbed just like you and I would absorb those amino acids that we talked about. But 75% of it is immediately degraded in the rumen to ammonia. And with urea as a protein source or other sources of non-protein nitrogen, or nutritionists call them NPN, if you look on your feed tag it may say percent NPN, are 100% immediately degraded to ammonia in the rumen. And so that ammonia can be utilized by the microbes to manufacture protein if there's a sufficient quantity of energy available to do that. To manufacture protein, microbes primarily need the source of nitrogen, and then they need that energy as well.
Yep. And so when we use the term degradable, undegradable, but when we say bypass, that just means the way it's consumed is the way that it's going to be presented and digested from the abomasum, just like in a monogastric.
Exactly. And very few, almost no feeds are 100% bypass. There's different rates of degradation or percentages of degradation. Corn byproducts, corn co-products, for example, are a little more resistant to rumen degradation, so they have a higher bypass percentage. But still, most of them are almost half degraded. The nitrogen's about half degraded in the rumen.
Yeah, and so that can be important with, just as you mentioned, on the different energy sources, but also in different times of rumen development of the calf, right?
In times of rumen, and really anything that limits the energy consumption of the animal can affect the ability of that animal to utilize that degraded protein. For example, a starting calf on feed under stress has low feed intake, would need a higher proportion of bypass protein. Cows on very low quality forage that have a low energy intake might be another example.
That's the reason why some of these corn byproducts have really changed the game. We used to worry so much about getting the right level and things to that nature. Now we seem to not be short on protein.
That's true, and we're feeding them as not only a protein source but an energy source. So in a lot of cases, especially in the upper Midwest, we're feeding well above the protein requirement just because they're a very economical source of energy.
You bet. We're going to take a break. Remember, amount of intake, amount of energy, the lower the energy and the lower the intake, the more the bypass protein is needed in that animal. When we come back, we're going to talk more about crude protein and protein for cattle with Dr. Dan Loy.
Time is money on the farm, and your cows are less productive when they're stressed. The Alertus on-farm test from IDEX allows you to quickly test cowside and identify open or pregnant cows within minutes on your schedule in the parlor, barn, or chute. It's more efficient for your farm, very simple to use, and puts you in control. With minimal training and reliable, fast results, sample-based pregnancy testing is better for beef and dairy producers. Learn more at idex.com/DocTalk.
Innovative low-stress cattle handling equipment is key to efficiency and safety. At Daniels Manufacturing Company, we design systems using the best materials. We work with top producers from all over the world who use Daniels products on their operations. We concentrate on quality, prioritizing the safety of the animals and their handlers. Each product is carefully crafted and inspected to ensure your system will last for many years. Whether your operation is small or large, Daniels Manufacturing Company can design a facility to meet your needs. Visit us online or call to see how we can improve your cattle handling facility.
Dr. Nels here, folks. We're super excited about this book on hiring. Have you made a bad hire? Have you hired someone you wish you wouldn't have? Are you looking to hire? It's a great short read on helping you in the hiring process. You can find it on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, or find it at drnels.com. Check it out there. We'd love to see you there.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need, from prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet. Supply.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dan Loy, who's the university professor and director of the Iowa Beef Center here at Iowa State University. We're both over in the Department of Animal Science, and it's great to have Dr. Loy on the show as a friend and a colleague, and someone that is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to ruminant nutrition and growth physiology of cattle, housing systems, you name it. So talk about how does a nutritionist approach, how much crude protein or the source of protein, if you're sitting down to evaluate a herd or a feedlot or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that the amount of the degraded protein that can be utilized depends on how much energy is available. And we used to have these thumb rules that, if calves were less than 700 pounds, we had to feed a natural protein source. Or if they were over 1,000 pounds, we could feed urea as the supplement. And that really is just kind of a substitute for being able to evaluate the degradability of the feeds and the amount of energy that's available. And about in, I think, 1974, Dr. Wise Burroughs here at Iowa State developed a system called the metabolizable protein system, which does just that. It looks at the degradability of the feeds, looks at the energy that's available, and then matches those up and determines whether what type of, if you can feed urea or not, and both the quantity and the quality of the feed or the protein that is needed and is required.
Yeah, and so that equation then is built into the NRC, and then allows a nutritionist to say, okay, we're on corn stalks, we're feeding a high quality alfalfa, different things to that. Now we need to know the level of the crude protein and the source, right?
Yeah, exactly. The nutrient requirements of beef cattle used to be called the NRC. Now it's the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Math, or NASEM, but it's still the Bible for
NRC.
It's still the Bible for the nutrient requirements of cattle. They have adopted a version of the metabolizable protein system to evaluate protein requirements of beef cattle. So whenever we use that system, we have to account for the degradability of the feedstuffs and then energy consumption, and then also the requirements of the animal, which are based on their maintenance requirements, which is the weight and size of the animal and environmental conditions, as well as their body composition and growth, or how much protein they're actually gaining, or milk, or whatever the requirements are. You put all that together. If you use that system, then you're accounting for all that, and we don't have to worry about those thumb rules that may or may not be appropriate.
Yeah, and I think that understanding the physiological state of the animal, the maintenance of the animal, the other supporting components and what you have available, it's not as simple as just buying a bag of protein.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so, that's why your nutritionist earns their paycheck, is because they have the software, they have the knowledge of the feedstuffs in your local area, and can take that information and put together the least cost ration.
Especially when we get into some of these lick tanks and different things, understanding this difference, as Dr. Loy has described, of non-protein nitrogen percentage within that amount of urea or biuret or whatever, versus true protein is going to be important.
Very important, yep.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have a wrap-up with Dr. Loy on crude protein and protein. You're watching Doc Talk. We're sure glad you joined us.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Innovative low-stress cattle handling equipment is key to efficiency and safety. At Daniels Manufacturing Company, we design systems using the best materials. We work with top producers from all over the world who use Daniels products on their operations. We concentrate on quality, prioritizing the safety of the animals and their handlers. Each product is carefully crafted and inspected to ensure your system will last for many years. Whether your operation is small or large, Daniels Manufacturing Company can design a facility to meet your needs. Visit us online or call to see how we can improve your cattle handling facility.
Time is money on the farm, and your cows are less productive when they're stressed. The Alertus on-farm test from IDEX allows you to quickly test cowside and identify open or pregnant cows within minutes on your schedule in the parlor, barn, or chute. It's more efficient for your farm, very simple to use, and puts you in control. With minimal training and reliable, fast results, sample-based pregnancy testing is better for beef and dairy producers. Learn more at idex.com/DocTalk.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need, from prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson and Dr. Dan Loy here at Iowa State University. Dr. Loy is a university professor and the director of the Iowa Beef Center and directs our beef extension here on campus. We're talking about crude protein, Dr. Dan. Let's talk about some of those times when you would or wouldn't feed urea versus a natural protein source.
Right. So, typically, and just think about times when energy intake is limited or when energy intake is abundant. And so with those lightweight calves, the more stressed they are, the lower their feed intake, the lower quality of forage that they're being fed, the less likely you are that you can feed very much, if any, supplemental urea. Now there's going to be some degraded protein that will be part of their natural feedstuffs, but we're talking about the supplemental protein that we're fed. So probably half of the protein that they're consuming is going to need to be required to be bypassed. But definitely using one of those systems will help define that a little more. You get into a heavy steer that's eating 25 pounds of dry matter a day and 20 pounds of corn, then feeding a liquid supplement that's based on urea or a urea-based supplement it can easily meet the majority of their protein requirements.
Right.
So that's where we see those high NPN, non-protein nitrogen supplements having the most value and most benefit.
Preston always told us that the rule of thumb was never feed more than 1% of diet dry matter as urea, except when you have those steers that are on because it matches the fermentation and the solubility of urea.
Right, and there's also some thumb rules, and I can't remember them off the top of my head right now, but the thumb rules in terms of urea limitations that you feed, and that's mostly like when you're feeding to beef cows, because at very high levels it can be toxic, and so you want to make sure that you stay within those guidelines.
And you can even get it, what they call bonkers in calves, that cows that are being supplemented too much urea and the ammonia levels is too high in the milk.
Right.
And those calves suckle, and they're basically a monogastric, and can wind up with some issues, some neurological issues in the calves if you.
We saw that. So one of the things this is a little bit off topic, but we can add ammonia into low quality forages and basically through ammoniation increase their digestibility and also increase their protein content. That's something that in Kansas, when feeds are expensive, you see it done with wheat straw. In this country, corn stalks was a good example of a feed that was done with. If you do that with a higher quality protein, then you can run into that condition. We saw that a few times years ago.
Too much of a good thing. So just to kind of wrap up on crude protein, what would be some of your bullet points?
Well, I think if you have the ability, the software to do it. The NRC has some software. We have a program called Brands at Iowa State that incorporates the metabolizable protein system. If you're doing that, then you're accounting for all these variations in feedstuffs and the requirements that we're talking about. The other thing I'd say is consider the stage of production of the animal. That's certainly an important component as well.
And work with your nutritionist.
and work with your nutritionist.
Dr. Wade Nichols is out there right now looking at me, staring at me, saying, you better mention the nutritionist.
That's
Thompson.
right.
And don't mention the vet.
This is for you, Wade.
Thanks for joining us today. As always, if you want to know more about what we do on DocTalk, you can find us on the internet at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local nutritionist and veterinarian. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dan Loy at Iowa State University, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Profusion Drench for beef cattle, a no prescription, no needle supplement. To learn more, go to zenpro.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals. ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need, from prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.